Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome from all at BYP TV. I'm Roger Cheetham, the host of the Life You Deserve show. We'll be talking with people who have overcome trauma, addiction and affliction to make a positive difference in the world. We'll be featuring experts and special guests who are willing to share their journey and their experiences with you. The saying goes that a stranger is someone that you haven't met yet. So I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce to you a brand new friend to me, a lady who describes herself as daring people to be awesome, daring people to be brave enough to say yes and to know when to say no. A lady who describes herself as the Breakthrough Diva. My guest today is Gayle Edwards. So Gayle, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about your background, please. I'm sure our audience would love to hear.
Oh, lovely. Thank you, Roger. It's really nice to be here with you today, actually. So I'm Gayle Edwards, the Breakthrough Diva, and I really help people through helping myself, actually, to be really awesome. I dare them to be awesome, in fact, because so many of us have got these amazing gifts and talents and skills inside of us, and we hide them. Or we even shy away from them because we're so scared to be our true selves. We're scared to show people just how powerful we really are. So my thing is all about having the courage to bring that out and to say yes to more experiences, because the more you say yes, the more empowered you are to say no as well. Because sometimes if we say yes to everything, our no becomes diluted.
Yeah.
So it's about making your no just as powerful. And that may sound a little bit convoluting, but really in practice, it's the most empowering and liberating place to be. And I know that from my own experience. You know, I spent years being a yes person, but in the wrong way, because I was trying to conform. And it was only when I really allowed myself, when I dared myself to be more powerful with my yeses, that I then had the courage to say no and hold my boundaries. And that's when the magic happened.
Yeah, I think the danger there is overwhelm, isn't it? Doing so many things, but not doing them well as you'd like them to be.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So have you always known, Gayle, that you've wanted to make such a difference in the world?
Oh gosh, yes. I've always known. You know, we have a saying in my family that I was literally born a maverick. I came out, you know, really wanting to blaze a trail straight away because I'm so different to everybody else in my family. You know, I'm not conventional. Most of my family, you know, I love them to pieces, but they're very normal. And normal is a great place to be if you are normal. It only becomes uncomfortable when you are not, like me. I just knew from a very young age that I wanted to really have an impact on people in the most positive way. I don't know what it was at that stage, at such a young age, but I just always wanted people to be their very best. And that's quite a blessing as well as a burden, to be honest, because you can't want more for somebody than they want for themselves. But from a young age, I wanted my cousins to just be the best that they could be. I wanted my friends at school to do really, really well. And, you know, at that age, that's annoying. You know, that in some instances led to me being bullied. And as I got older, I learned to embrace and harness that, though, in a way that not only was I able to help people, but I had to learn about myself first so that I could help people in a way that wasn't going to be annoying or irritating or come across as pushy or bossy. Oh my gosh, how many times was I called bossy as a child? And it wasn't that I was bossy, I just really wanted them to be their best. And that little seed just grew and grew and grew over the years. And, you know, even in my corporate career, I was always seen, even though my corporate career spanned sales and marketing, I was always seen as the person that was going to be more concerned with the people in the campaign rather than the campaign itself. So when I became self-employed, it just stood to reason that I was going to retrain as this thing called a coach. So what on earth is that? What's a coach? Once I discovered that a coach was somebody that was there to help people and got paid for doing it. It was like, oh my gosh, the lights came on, you know, and that was it. I call it my spiritual home, because that's what it feels like to me. It feels very much at home. I'm in my own skin. And that grew out of just wanting my friends and my family from a young age to be their best. And here we are, the Breakthrough Diva.
I think a phrase that's really resonated with me that I heard a fellow speaker use from stage was to say, why do we try so hard to fit in when we're born to stand out?
Absolutely.
And from what you're saying, you know, you've always dared to be different from childhood and through life.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think it was Oscar Wilde who said, you may as well be yourself because everybody else is taken.
Yeah.
And, you know, that took me a long time to really be comfortable with that, because as passionate as I was about everybody else being, you know, being their best, it took me a long time to accept that that's who I am. I'm not bossy, I'm not pushy, I'm not even fickle, because I loved experiences as a child and as a young adult. So that led me to do lots of different things, which to the outside world looked as if I was being fickle. But I wasn't being fickle, I just liked to experience different things. And once I realised that there's nothing wrong with that, again, the freedom comes from understanding who you are. And that's why I work in the space that I work in, because that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm allowing people that freedom to be exactly who they are, and then to use that freedom to leverage it for growth in whichever area of their life that they want, whether it be in their business, whether it be in their health even, whether it just be in their everyday lifestyle. Because when we limit ourselves according to what everybody else thinks, oh, you need to be in that job for 30 years. You need to be married to that man or that woman for 30 years. You need to have children. You shouldn't have children. You know, when we limit ourselves according to everybody else's conditions, we create this confusion, this maelstrom in our head that just doesn't allow us to go anywhere. That's not freedom. That is not freedom. And I suppose what I do is really facilitate that transition between knowing that you're caught in some kind of confusing place and getting to a place where I can breathe, I feel okay. Not everybody is prepared to do that, and that's why I say, I dare you. How committed are you really to changing your life? Because that's not an easy place to be.
I would agree with that. I think you used a great word there, as in when you mentioned being committed, because I think there's a whole vast difference between being interested in something and being committed to something. And as you say, sort of by daring people to be brave enough to say yes and daring them to know when to say no.
Yeah.
That's actually testing whether they're interested or whether they're committed.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, and commitment is one of those things where you can be very committed right now. The circumstances are right, the people are right, the environment is right. You can be really committed now. But what happens when they go? How committed are you? That's when you get the test of commitment. And that's why I tend to veer on the side of daring, because it's when that commitment dies out, or when those factors are taken away, are you still committed? You have to have that power within yourself to say, absolutely. And that's where consistency then comes in. So commitment starts us off, but it's consistency that then drives us forward. And that consistency comes from allowing yourself to really go for what it is that you want to go for your goals, go for your vision. You know, I've heard some amazing stories over the years. I've worked with some amazing people who've done some really, I look at people and I see where they're going. They don't yet see it. And when I see them achieving it, that's what gives me my glory, because I see that there's a state that people enter into when they start to achieve their dreams and they start to be who they were meant to be. And that look on their face, that slight expression, it's only minute, but that warms my heart for days, weeks, months, years even. There are clients I've worked with years ago, when I think of their story and their transitions, it still warms me today. you know, and that came from them not just being committed, but for them being consistent in their actions. They've taken those steps, whether it be big, small, or tiny, tiny, tiny steps. They've taken them, and that's what's got them to where they are, and that fills me with absolute joy, absolute joy.
That's great. And from what you've shared so far, Gayle, I think our audience could quite easily be forgiven for thinking that, you know, the journey's been an easy one for you, and you know it's always been an easy path. You know, from knowing you a little bit as I've got to now, that's certainly not the case, is it, Gayle?
No, not at all. And this is the thing: anybody can be awesome, no matter what has happened, no matter what is even happening right now. You know, there are people who will sit in, you know, in a situation like this, and of course you could be forgiven for thinking, well, she's got it all together, and there could be absolute mayhem going on in their lives. And I know what that's like, because I was that woman, I was that person for many years. I would go on to stages, I would deliver workshops, I'd work with clients one-to-one, and everything would be lovely. Oh, she's great, she's a Breakthrough Diva. But really, I was broken, completely broken inside. You know, my marriage failed, and that led me on a real downward spiral. I became very ill. I suffered with depression as well as physical illness. I also had emotional illness. I was in debt, you know, complete financial devastation. And these are normal things that happen to normal everyday people. And we think that they're the end of us. We think that they're, you know, that they're going to destroy us. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. Best thing ever. If it weren't for every single one of those things that I've been through, I wouldn't be sitting here now. I wouldn't have a story to tell. But most importantly, I wouldn't have the relationships that I have in my life. You know, my daughter and I are closer than I mean, I think we were always going to be close, to be honest. We kind of set that up from birth. But the level and the depth of the relationship that we have is because of what we've had to go through together. The relationship I have with my ex-husband as well is fantastic. We would never have had that relationship had we stayed married. You know, the relationships that I have even with my family, because of what we've been through together, you know, them having to accept that, you know, I'm the Breakthrough Diva, and me having to accept that, you know, they're lovable and normal. You know, we would not have had the level of understanding that we have. And as I said earlier on, freedom comes with understanding who you are. And these experiences have given me a real depth of understanding that I wouldn't have had before. So no, it's not been easy under no circumstances. And I am actually, you know, in the position right now, in the position of being able to write about some of the stuff that's happened, because tell you that's going to be a fascinating read. But I would not swap not one of those circumstances for anything.
So for anyone in our audience that's facing a breakup of a relationship or a divorce or anything similar to that at the moment, that's telling themselves, we've got to stay together because it's the right thing to do for the kids, from what you're saying there, that's, you know, absolutely not the case, certainly in your case. Absolutely
not. I can tell you a really funny story. It's funny, but it's quite serious actually. My daughter was eight and a half when we broke up, when we split up. And we'd been having issues for quite a while. You know, we were really a square peg and round hole, you know, both lovely people, but just not really supposed to be together. Yeah. And when she was about 7 and a half, just coming up for 8, my daughter said to me one morning, "Mum, you and Daddy, you're not really red, are you?" And I thought, what on earth does she mean? So I said, "What do you mean we're not red?" She went, "Well, you're more of an orangey, yellowy colour." And straight away, I knew exactly what she meant. But I wanted to know, did she know what she meant? So I said, "Well, what do you mean by red? Explain to me, Mix, who do we know that's red?" And she started listing off friends and family who had really tight-knit, close, loving, very warm relationships. And I thought, crumbs, if I'm not fooling my own daughter, who am I fooling? So I said to her, "Well, orangey yellow is quite a good colour for friends though." She goes, "Yeah, but you and Daddy aren't friends," you know. I all thought, And so I spoke to my ex-husband about it, and we agreed. We're not fooling our own daughter, and we are setting an example for her on how to have a relationship. And I realised I don't want her to settle for an orange-yellow relationship with her husband or her life partner. I want her to have a red relationship. And the only way I can show her that is by committing to have one myself. And so that's when my husband and I made the decision that we were going to separate, but we were going to do it in typically an unconventional way, but we were going to do it in a way that's really going to serve all three of us. Not just me, not just him, not just her. But she was the catalyst, to be honest, in terms of we've got to do this right for the right reasons. And, it's really funny now, years later, we were out for dinner, the three of us, a couple of weeks ago, and she was laughing her head off. She's 15 now, nearly 16. She was laughing her head off. And she said, I can't believe you two were ever married. I said, yeah, but look what came out of it. So when when you're in that situation, you think, oh my gosh, this is so awful. You do have a choice. You can stay for the sake of the children, but just know you're not fooling them. Children are much more resilient than we give them credit for. And it will get better. And I know that's a bit of a cliche, but it does get better because time is a great healer. But not only that, you are a great healer. We do heal. We do recover. And we come back better and better and better every single time.
It sounds like Michaela really is a character.
Oh gosh,
and from what you've shared earlier, quite an inspiration to you as well. So look out, audience, we could well be seeing Michaela as a guest on a future episode of the Life You Deserve show. In fact, you shared a quote with me earlier that Michaela said to you around about the age of 10, and I would feel completely selfish to keep that to myself. So yeah. Would you like to share that with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, it's tough when you're going through divorce, regardless of how amicable it is, it's tough. You lose your very foundations. And then with that came various other difficulties as well. And one day I was absolutely at the bottom, in the depths of despair. And Michaela, who has got some of my qualities, but also a lot of her dad's as well, and that practical attitude is definitely one that she's got from her dad. She looked at me in my broken state and she said to me, Mum, come on, you've got to make a decision. You're either the Breakthrough Diva or you're not. And she just walked off. But in that moment I thought, she's right. I have a choice. I am either the Breakthrough Diva or I'm not. And if I am, then I have a responsibility, not just to her, not just to myself, but to everybody else that I know I've been able to impact and that impacts me, to get up and to stand up and to learn how to do what I say I'm going to do, which is to unleash my own awesomeness. So I had to dare myself to be awesome. I had to dare myself to get back up and get back in the game. And that all came from Michaela. I say she's the best coach I've ever had. She really is. She's amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'm excited to see what she's going to do. But I also want her to make some mistakes. She's a teenager. She's got a whole life ahead of her. So I keep saying to her that I'm waiting for the rebellion. And she just says, yeah, you wait, Mum.
Be very careful what you wish for. You never know what's around the corner. So how's life looking in the life of Gayle Edwards at the moment?
Oh gosh, 2018 has started in a completely different way. And to be honest, like I said, I wouldn't change anything that's happened over the last few years anyway, because it's all brought its own blessing. But what's happened in the last few months, I'd say, is the opportunities and the people have really upscaled. So I'm looking forward now that I'm going to be, I don't want to share too much actually, it's quite exciting, but I'm going to be impacting people on a whole different level. So I'm excited to see what are they going to do with that. Because if I'm going to be impacting them, they are going to be impacting the world. So I'm really interested to see what are they going to come out with. Because that's the thing, when you unleash something with somebody, you don't know what you're unleashing. You've got no idea. They don't even have an idea. We start our day with the best plans, and sometimes we end our day having not fulfilled any of those plans, but still having had the most awesome day possible. And that's the excitement for me. I really don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't know what someone's going to come with. You know, I had a lady that I worked with last year who came to me with she showed up with a frustration that she wasn't able to sell one of her coaching programs. It was a 12-week coaching program. It was fairly reasonably priced, and she was just frustrated that she just couldn't attract enough clients to sell that. Yeah. And you might think, well, I thought you said you help people to be awesome, and I do. But her frustration at not being able to sell a program at the price she was selling it showed me straight away, somewhere you are blocking yourself. So let's work on that. So let's unlock. This is where we start to unlock the awesomeness. And literally, I gave her a set of challenges. Within 2 weeks, if it was even that long, 10 days, she then had, because I actually got her to increase her prices by 500%. So
Wow, what an achievement.
500%. She was very uncomfortable, but sometimes you've got to be uncomfortable. We've got to feel a bit of discomfort. If you're not feeling discomfort every single day, then really you're living a life of mediocrity. And I don't mean to be rude or offensive to anyone that's listening, but if that's what you want, great. But if you want a life of experience and adventure that really thrills you, then you need to learn to be uncomfortable. You need to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And she was very uncomfortable. Within 10 days, she had a waiting list for the same program. She didn't change anything about the program apart from the price. Mm-hmm. And what that is, that's about positioning. So that's my marketing head coming back into the game with my coaching head and the branding and whatnot. And through positioning, she has been able now to have a waiting list for that program. She's now in demand as an international coach. She's always jetting between here and New York and Dubai, and this is a woman who just thought that she just wanted to sell this little program, as she called it, and now she's an international coach. That was not her plan. She came to me because she couldn't sell her coaching program. So things like that, when you unlock, it's just knowing the right key for the right lock.
That's an excellent story to hear, how you've made such a positive difference to someone else, and I think that's a perfect place for us to end our conversation today. So once again, Gayle Edwards, thank you very much indeed for being a guest on the Life You Deserve show, and again, thank you very much to our audience.
Boom.